Hello, beautiful people. It's your favorite cousin Rich with episode 38, yes, of Rich Talks. And it is currently October 8th, 2024 at 5:19 a.m. California time, Pacific time. And today, topic of discussion is living in the shadows of our ancestors. But more in depth is to break that down is going to be, generational curses and how they play an impact on us. Trying to angle myself on how I want to start this, so please bear with me. A lot of times, our lives are influenced by those closest to us. Our parents, our mothers, our fathers, our cousins, those closest to us, our grandparents. Our lives at an early age are dictated, by these people. If you grew up in a family of doctors, they're more than likely wanting you to be what? A doctor. Or if you grew up in a family full of teachers, likewise, grew up in a family full of veterans, Army vet, Navy vet, Marines, whatever the case may be. A lot of times, you're influenced to follow in their path. And sometimes, when we follow in these paths, it's not because we necessarily want to, we're just influenced to do it. A lot of times when we grow up in these families where they have these lineages of these things, it's very, when we grow up in these families, it's already, a lot of this is already predetermined, it's just in the culture of the family. A lot of times it's no second thought of wanting to do something or there's something else, It's almost, some would say it's ingrained in your DNA. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's ingrained in your DNA. I would more so say it's just a part of the culture. It's deeply rooted in the culture. Now, this isn't necessarily a negative thing or a bad thing. It can be good if what is being passed down is something healthy and positive. I would only say it's a negative if you want to carve your own path in life and those around you resist it. And of course, if it's negative or it's detrimental to your, mind, body, and soul. But if we're talking about just something positive, it's cool. Like I said, it only gets bad if everybody in your family was a teacher and now you want to do something else. Or everybody in your family was a doctor and now you want to do something else and now they shun you for it. That's not a good thing. And a lot of people live in this type of energy. It's not just necessarily with employment or anything of that sort. It could also be just a way of life. A family could be materialistic, so they expect you to be materialistic, or family may indulge in unhealthy choices or unhealthy eating styles or habits, so that passes down onto you. And now it's up to you to obviously give in to that same thing or to break that cycle. And a lot of times, it's hard to break that cycle because it's deeply ingrained in you, number one, since birth. Because you've been around these people since birth. So these cycles have been around since birth. And number two, you don't have any kind of positive reinforcement or backing or support a lot of times in these situations. Why? Because you're the only one who wants to change. You know, when you look around at everybody else around you, either they are in denial that these lifestyle patterns that they're living could be detrimental. They're either in denial or they just don't know. But a lot of times the change makers or the people who could possibly be the change makers, something awakes in them. Something, is a shift in energy where something happens and they wake up and realize that the way that they've been living can no longer continue. People wake up. And if you're listening to this video, you might be that one person who woke up. So now you find yourself, and this is your task of changing or breaking this curse that's been placed upon you. And the reality of it is that it's not easy. It's not easy at all because a lot of times you're the first person who's ever embarked on this. And especially with no support, the likelihood of backsliding could be high. These changes is not something that could just happen overnight so easily. These are changes that take time. And a lot of times the motivational force behind these changes is the people around you. Or you see the people around you and deep down inside you don't want to be like the people around you. You refuse to be like the people around you, and that's the motivational factor a lot of times for people to continue down that path of breaking these generational curses. So if you grew up in a family of doctors and they expect you to be a doctor, but you want to be an artist, you want to act. So you go down the road of being an actor. That fueling force of you continuing down that path is when you look around your family and you see, granted, that they may be financially well off and that they're doctors, they have these letters behind their name, prestigious, but they're not happy. And not in the sense of, oh, we should aim for happiness, like we mentioned in the other previous video. No. And let me rephrase that. Happiness should come in your life, but we should not aim for happiness. We should not shoot for happiness, okay? So you should, it's cool to be happy. If it naturally comes, enjoy it, embrace it. Okay, so back to the topic. If we're talking about this person who looks around, everybody around them is a doctor, and they turn around and see these people are not happy. Like no lick of happiness comes in their life. No sense of peace comes in their life. And they ask themselves, is this something that I want? And that is the fueling force that drives them to continuously pursuing their dreams of being an actor. So that goes back to what I said, that a lot of times you don't have support. But the fuel that you may need can be right around you when you look at those around you who continue down the path of that generational quote unquote curse, or the path that your ancestors have laid before you. And you see that the life that they live is not one that you may want. That is the fueling force a lot of times. Until you rebuild your family, which would consist of like-minded individuals. And now this would be your new support group that will help you get to that next level. Now, is it bad that, you leave people behind? That's what happens. We've heard it time and time again, you have to separate to what? Elevate. That's just what comes with it. And are they bad people because they continue in the cycle? No. I would just say some people haven't woken up yet. They haven't arisen to the calling. Or some people just didn't get the call. Or some people ignored it. Some people would rather the life that they're still living and stay in that comfort and stay in the known instead of being uncomfortable and jumping into the unknown. Doesn't make them bad people, like I said. It just keeps them stuck. Keeps them stagnant. A lot of times, even when you look at things like marriages, it's interesting because I was in the sauna one day and this guy was saying how his stepdaughter and her husband have been, they're separated. I believe he said they were separated. Going through a divorce or approaching a divorce, but they're separated and they have a daughter. And the stepdaughter and her husband have been bickering back and forth, neglecting the daughter, which is the most important part in this whole equation. But they've been neglecting the daughter and been bickering back and forth about their needs and and who's wrong in this situation, who's right, They're borderline toxic shit. So I was sitting there listening, and then I had to pause for a second and I had to backtrack, and I said, you hit the nail on the head. The nail on the head is that you stated that this was your stepdaughter. And when he said that, it clicked. I said, this is generational. And what's generational? Where are you getting at? I said, if this is your stepdaughter, and she's bickering back and forth with her husband, you're married into this family. A lot of times out of 10, the way she's bickering back and forth with her husband is the same way her mother was bickering back and forth with her father. Boom. All the lights went off. I said, this is generational. This has been a learned, passed down behavior. And a lot of times, this was passed down beforehand. Her mother probably did the same thing. And again and again. Until someone picked it up from somewhere and that's where it originated. I said, hey, this is learned behavior. And what's probably going to happen is she's going to follow in the steps of her mother. They're going to get a divorce. She's going to get remarried. The daughter's going to have a stepdad. And it's going to follow just like how we've seen the example with you guys. Lights went off. And he was saying he wished they could fix it and hope they could fix it. And I said, the only way they can fix it is if they truly sit down and look in the mirror and realize they're acting out of learned behaviors. And you have to reprogram your mind. First, you have to ask yourself, do you even want to be in this situation, and why are you even in this situation? Or are you in this situation because it's right for you? Or you just thought it was the right situation? Or was it off of lust? Why were you in this situation? Once you keep it honest of why you're in this situation, now it gives you the ability to have the fuel to either work through it or dissolve it. But number one is you got to be honest with yourself. Because what's going to happen is, now the daughter is exposed to this. Not the older stepdaughter who's married. No, the little girl is now exposed to this. So what happens if this doesn't get healed? I promise you, she's either going to have a boyfriend where the same thing happens, or she's going to get married and the same thing is going to happen. Haven't you ran into people or seen people like a whole family and there's no men? There's just all like aunties, aunties and their kids, and like no men are there, maybe just one. That's the outlier. And they all have the same topic of discussion about men. I'm not going to give examples about the exact discussion because that's going off topic. But haven't you noticed that? And then you have to sit back and say, this isn't true. You guys have just been indoctrinated into a certain ideology, certain mindset, certain way of thinking, certain way of living. And you picked up on it, and that's how you live your life. And that's a generational curse right there. You're thinking that you're doing this on your own, or you're thinking that you're finding flaws in your partner and this and that and this and that, and that this is, you're acting in the right. But technically, to be honest with you, you're just acting in ways that have been passed down to you. And sadly, these ways that have been passed down to you are not conducive to the way that you truly want to live. Haven't you noticed, like I said, in that family where you have all the aunties, and it might be that one who's actually married and happy. But what do? They ostracize that one. They make fun of that one. They say, oh, you're a pick-me, or you're this, you're that. They try to shun that one. They try to make fun of that one. That one that broke out of that thinking, that mindset, that mind frame. Because they chose to live a different life. They chose to break that curse. They saw that it was a curse that was being placed upon. And the way that they wanted their life was not congruent to the curse. So one had to go. It was either the dream or the curse. And they chose to forego the curse in order to have the dream. But that's what comes with it. You will be shunned. You will be ostracized. Some people might not mess with you anymore or things like that, but that's cool. Because you don't want those people interfering with your new reality. You know, you don't want people with muddy shoes and turning into your clean home. So it's best to keep those people what? On the outside. So how else can these generational curses impact us? They impact our mental health. Besides physical, you know, the physical could be bad health. You know, if you're in a family of people who don't exercise and not conscious of what they eat or big into nutrition or things of that sort, just even knowing certain things, guess what? It'll be passed down. But it can also take a toll on your mental health. You know, staying stuck and stagnant in situations that's not beneficial for you can take a toll on your emotional well-being, your mental well-being. Knowing that there's more to life, you want to do more in life. You want to experience more. But you can't because you've been pigeonholed into this box to fit in with your family and be accepted. So now it goes through mental turmoil, emotional turmoil. You know, you want to live a certain life of your career path. But now you're going through depression because you're all alone. Even if you choose to be a doctor like everyone else in your family, right? You can still undergo mental and emotional turmoil because now you're all alone. You know what you want to do and you can't do it because you can't break free. You see? And even on the flip side of, okay, and even on the flip side, when you say you're going to go your own way, just the fact of being by yourself, that loneliness, can take a toll on you. Not having support can take a toll on you. I wish there was another solution to overcome it. But the only thing I can say is you have to keep going. You have to use those around you as fuel. And that's the fuel that we talked about earlier, is that you have to look around you and say you don't want to be like these people. And that should be the motivational driving force that pushes you even more to go and forge your own path. Now, some people feel as if it's their duty or honor and that they have to, you know, honor their legacy. They have to follow in the tradition. They have to. And I say this. I say, who said? Who said you have to? If you're a person who believes in heaven and hell, I ask you this. Are you going to go to hell if you don't follow in the footsteps and follow in the path of those who've come before you? Is it a sin? You know, for those who've read the Bible, is it a sin if you don't follow in the path of those who come before you? The answer is no. So to me, that should be the ultimate determinant factor of you having the ability to be able to forge your own path. What is the mental stronghold, or what makes you feel as if you have to follow in the footsteps of those who come before you? And I think what happens is it falls back into the category of, if you don't, some people are afraid of losing that support, whether it be financial or emotional, whatever the case may be. A lot of people are afraid of losing that support. Or some people don't want to be, I guess, shunned. Like I said, now you have to ask yourself this question. What's most important? Is it most important following the footsteps that's been led before you, but you live in mental anguish, or you forge your own path? And granted, when you forge your own path, it can be scary. And there will be times where you will be alone and you have to support yourself. But you have to look at the ending outcome. The outcome that you are now on your way to peace. Or you're on your way to having or allowing as much happiness as possible to enter into your life. And some people may say, well, how do I know if I have a generational curse on me? I say the first thing you have to do is, if there's something that you always do and you don't know why you do it, or if there's something that you're doing and you feel a calling to do something else, or you feel something else deeper in your spirit of what you want to do, you have to sit and do the shadow work and find out what that thing is. If you're a compulsive eater and you don't know why you're eating and your health is deteriorating, you have to sit down and ask yourself, why am I doing this? And you seen it was something passed down, from family. Let me rephrase that. If everyone in your family is like a compulsive eater and you're following in their footsteps, now you have to ask yourself. That's different than somebody who's just who likes to eat. Two totally different things. Or if you're someone who really wants love, but you see in your family everybody talks about, or if you're somebody who really wants love, this is better. If you're someone who really wants love, and you've never had a successful relationship in the past, now you have to sit down and ask yourself, why have I never had a successful relationship? And now you have to come to grips and be honest with yourself and take accountability if need be and say, because I may have self-sabotaged or this, I may have chose wrong, this. I didn't have a proper example to choose from, a proper guide to help, all these things, right? So now, when you're able to get to the root of the issue, now you're able to make the choices for yourself that you know you want to take, the choices for yourself that you know you need to make. So you say, oh man, I've never been in a relationship because I haven't had the proper example, or this, these things. Oh, where did this come from? Oh, because everybody in my family is the same way. Nobody in my family is married, or nobody in my family has a long-term marriage, or this, or successful, or anything positive to say about the opposite sex. And now I find myself in that same category, same ballpark. So now when you're doing the shadow work and you come down to that point, now you have to go even further and say, and this is where the hardest part comes, to reprogram your mind. And say, that you're willing to go against the status quo that has been led before you. You're willing to be in the darkness in order to get to the light. You're willing to forego thoughts and ideologies and mindsets that's been passed down on you because you want something greater. But number first thing is you have to acknowledge that you've been living a certain type of way. You have to acknowledge it. Without acknowledging it, you won't get far. You have to be conscious of it. You have to be conscious of what's been implanted into you. And now you have to be conscious and aware that you want to reprogram your mind. Without these things, change either won't occur or the change will occur and something will happen and you'll revert back. We've seen this time and time again where people change, but something happens and they revert back to their old self because it's comfortable. This is how strong these generational curses can be. And this is why I say it takes time. But you have to always be conscious and always be active and to moving your life forward in the direction that you want to live your life. To sum it up, to breaking generational curses is the life that you desire and your want to live that life has to be stronger than you being comfortable. If the life that you desire and you're wanting that life, if it's not stronger than the strongholds that's been placed upon you, if it's not stronger than the generational curses, it will never happen. This was episode 38 of Rich Talks. I'm really enjoying these. I hope you guys are too, for those listening. If no one is listening at this point in time, it doesn't mind me much because I'm having fun. I'm enjoying these. Sharpening my skill, sharpening my iron. I hope this message could help somebody. This your favorite cousin. Episode 38. I love y'all. Y'all be safe. Love and blessings.